your
Yeah, just gotta. Oh shoot, almost forgot the button. There we go. Um, yeah. So we're gonna be talking about some recent controversy on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Regarding the race swap specifically. Um, yeah. I'll just. Should we wait for people to roll in, or should we just jump right into it?
jump right into it. I don't want to be here for longer than a half hour. I feel like I can get everything I want to get off, but if you need to go longer, let's go longer.
All good, all good. So, essentially, what my position is on the whole thing is I don't really see a huge problem with it. I really don't mind changes. Well, in general for adaptation, I don't really mind changes to the source material. I care more about how it's done in execution. We've had adaptations where they've made quite a bit of changes in character. Like even in just like motivation, what their character arcs are, whatever, and they've done a pretty good job with it. So it really comes down to did we have a good story? That's what I care about. Chillmonger, you're free to state your position.
From the position of representation and a history of Hollywood films, media in general, of negatively portraying anybody whose skin is darker than a brown paper bag. For that standpoint, there is a need to have melanated people on screen positively portrayed, frequently portrayed, normalizing their appearances. Aside the entertainment factor, what you just told me about how you can still enjoy somebody if he doesn't exactly look like how the character was during the adaptation, the adaptation, all that stuff doesn't factor into what I'm talking about here from the representation side of the internet of we have a lack of representation and it's needed. So that maybe you can agree with or not. I would hope you would agree with that representation is necessary in media.
Yeah, I agree that representation is important. There should absolutely be normalization, especially for marginalized groups. Because, obviously in society, if we don't treat it as normal, if we don't treat it as a normal part of society, that just kind of plays into the, how do I describe it? It's just I guess the stigma, that I guess people have
Yeah.
to live with as
So a
minorities.
stigma is created. So we recognize the urgency of why we need people whose skin is dark on our screens, and the characters that we enjoy on a regular basis need to look that way, and not an overrepresentation and oversaturation of people who are white.
I mean, what I'd say is that in the context of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, it seems like all we have is, as far as like Norman Osborn and I guess Harry Osborn. I don't know if they confirmed if it's Harry, but if it is, then it seems like they've done the race changing with those two, which seems fine enough. And I'd say the reason for that is it's kind of the same thing they did with the Spectacular Spider-Man. Don't know if you've seen that or not, but in that show they do make some changes to the race of the characters. Funnily enough, with Roderick Kingsley, who's meant to become the Hobgoblin, they made him black in the show as well. If you look at some of the interviews, the behind the scenes stuff for Spectacular Spider-Man, one of the reasons they gave is that New York is a very racially diverse environment. It's one of the most racially diverse environments in the country, so they want to represent that in the show.
Okay, the execution was flawed, but yes, I agree.
Okay, yeah, we can get into that. It might be interesting to get into that because that's like a finished product, whereas this, it seems like we don't really know. There's like some ambiguity there. So, but yeah, I guess to tackle the concept, what would you say is the flaw in Spectacular Spider-Man, for example, for them choosing to race swap certain characters?
Who's Hobgoblin in the comic books? If I open a comic right now, 616, did that change on the TV show make a change in the comic book? No, it's still a white guy. If I go to the MCU, who is it? Isn't the Filipino dude? What's his name? Not Ned.
Flash Thompson, or is it
No, it is Ned. Ned, that guy.
Ned? Okay.
Isn't he supposed to be the Hobgoblin coming up? You see how the Spectacular Spider-Man
I thought
race
he was
swap.
framed for that.
If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Whoever it is who they decide to do in Marvel Studios, and whoever happens to be the Hobgoblin in this TV show,
Mm-hmm.
and future times. The race swap never lasted. The race swap was not launching a black franchise. The race swap was a temporary symbolic gesture to New York is so diverse. And yeah, right, New York is diverse. Let's get a black character, not a skin tone differently for this adaptation version of a white character who doesn't remain. Just like when Kingpin was a black man, and every single Kingpin we've seen after that in 2010 onwards, it's always been a white Kingpin.
Okay.
These fulfill the racial. Yeah,
Just to question that real quick, what do you think of Nick Fury? Because with Nick Fury's case, it seems like it's kind of stuck across adaptations. The most it seems, from what I could tell.
I've seen Nick Fury who's been depicted white after Samuel L. Jackson's movie. It's not something that's cemented. None of these are. The the
Well,
the Nick
I
Fury
yeah, the
and
reason I ask is because with Nick Fury in the MCU, that's like probably the most well-known version. I've noticed him in like cartoons. They've portrayed him as black as well. This is actually based on Ultimate Spider-Man, well, the Ultimate Universe, where Nick Fury was depicted as black in those comics.
yeah, that was a
So,
race swap there. Yeah, and I'm not in favor of alternate versions that they're black this time. I want Black Blue Marvel. I want Blade. I want Brother Voodoo. I want Storm. I want Black Panther. There's
mhm.
characters I want who are black, and not black versions of somebody who's white. Because you know what that fulfills? That fulfills every racist sweat dream. I can convince people we're being replaced, and I can call them to my YouTube channel. There's no benefit to this. We can get the same thing, which is a black character on screen, without having white people replaced. It's just the easiest thing to be done. It is the most progressive thing to be done. And the
So I
studios, yeah.
Yeah, I have a question about that. So is it possible to tackle both of them at the same time, where you bring in like black characters that were black in the comics, but then
Yeah.
you also have like a few race swaps here and there? Do you
Why
think
do you
it's
want race
possible to
swaps?
do
Like,
both of them?
why? I'll answer your question. What world do you live in when there is just an abundance of black characters where there's not like a limit that these studios have? What world do you live in where, yeah, we can do both? Because if I go to the movie theaters right now, if I look at the posters, it's going to be a whole lot of white people and Cynthia Erivo painted green. Like there's not going to be black representation if I go to a um Netflix and I start scrolling the top shows, maybe one or two in the top 10, but like there's a very finite spots for black representation to happen. Is there room that could we do both? I don't even want to do both, and I told you why I don't want to do both because it comes at the expense of replacing white people, which radicalizes people farther away than where I want them to be at, and will get them to a point where they are racist in every terms of the word, in every meaning of the word. I don't want the race swaps. Like it is regressive. It is a practice that once executed only has negative effects. I don't want to take. Ah, well, we can still do it. So no to the race swaps. No to doing both race swaps and to doing actual black characters. Just do the black characters.
Okay. I guess one thing I would question is, when, because you said that when Roderick Kingsley was depicted as black in the TV show, it didn't change the comics, right?
If you go to a comic book and look at 616 comic books, you will see white. It didn't
Right.
change.
So
And I
the
don't want
reason,
it to change because of what it'll do with people and their replacement theories.
well, that's where my confusion lies, is because there's a concern about like replacements, right? But we still have the original. So like, what exactly is the replacement? It's rather an adaptation. It's not supposed to be the original. They didn't literally take the original and change it at that point.
Yeah, they just replaced it in the adaptation on the TV show or on the movie.
Well,
That's the
sure, but
that
like adaptations are meant to be different. They're not meant to be replacements. That's not the role they serve.
the effects of the fear mongering that will come from this um replacement theorist, the effects are legitimate and we have to live with them. Like you're asking me to reason to this potential racist who's just viewing this racist YouTuber talking about replacement theory. You're asking me to reason with that. I don't want to give him the
Well,
ammunition.
I'm confused. Like, what exactly is the reasoning that you're talking about? Because what I'm saying, well, or at least what I'm advocating for,
Yeah.
is that like if they want to do race swaps, it's like okay, as long as it doesn't compromise character, I don't really have an issue with that. it's a separate thing. You still have the original. It's just an adaptation. Adaptations, like I said, they can change whatever as long as it doesn't create any problems, as long as the story still works. And I don't really see the I guess the racism or the damage it would do to any races to do any race swaps, especially since with these people you're talking about, I imagine you're probably thinking of like Ryan Kinnell, Nerdrotic, Critical Drink. Are you thinking of that crowd?
Yes.
Yeah, so the problem is that even with those people, even when you create original black characters, they still find ways to complain about it. I
Let them
mean, we
complain
literally,
about original black characters and see how much less effective their complaints are going to be. When you give them actual ammunition to
well,
say
I
we're
think,
being replaced and here's exhibit A, you're propping up, you're making them a lot stronger and a lot more correct than they need to be when they're doing these videos.
my point is, I don't think either of their claims have a degree of validity to it. I think there's very easy ways in which you can um, give counterpoints to the things they're saying. I mean, to give an example, for they try to go from the angle of it's different from the comics, therefore it's bad. But someone like Nerdrotic, who I know thinks Spider-Man 2 from Sam Raimi is a really good movie, they do make changes from the comics in that movie, yet he still thinks it's like one of the best superhero movies out there. But those
All
changes
right.
to the characters are like larger than a simple change in skin color.
That is a very you're absent from the real life effects that I'm taking. You're talking about how, the characters don't change with the skin and we can still enjoy the entertainment this or that way. It's all about characters. It's all about their actions. It's all about the fiction. I'm like zooming out. I'm not in the fiction right now. I'm talking about in the real life world. And when this, which was my thumbnail here, when
Uh huh.
this is seen, this triggers people, it upsets those people, and it convinces them we are being replaced. Anybody with red hair is being replaced. What's wrong with white? What's wrong with being white? It's giving them correct fuel to their fire, which is going to radicalize viewers, which creates more people who are racist. Not completely, of course. It's gray. It goes from someone who sees a race swap going from, surprised, maybe they get shocked, maybe they get annoyed, maybe they get triggered, maybe they get furious, and then they just go full on racist. Like enough of these race swaps will radicalize viewers into perceiving dark skin as the enemy, as DEI as a slur. Like we are doing that, not we, but Marvel Studios and everyone who's providing race swaps. They're giving racists fuel. That is a negative. Now,
Okay.
I'm saying you're going to make all these people angry and get them upset with black, and I don't even get to keep the black character because Norman Osborn will be depicted as a white guy one more time. Norman Osborn and every other character who they do race swaps with always come back. Human Torch was played by Michael B. Jordan, but before that it was Chris Evans, right? Did Human Torch played by Michael B make Marvel go, well, he's a black character now? No, Joseph Quinn is playing the Human Torch in a 2025 Fantastic Four movie. Now, I'm sure in that year, in 2015, in that year, they said, the studio, which was it Fox?
It
They
was
said,
Fox, yeah.
we're doing a black character. We're fulfilling our representation quota. Well, what did I get? What did you get, SK? What did the viewers, the general movie audience, get when Michael B played Human Torch? They
I
got
didn't
a
watch the
white
movie,
character.
so
What? Sorry again.
I didn't watch the movie, so I can't say.
The quality of the film isn't relevant. The It didn't introduce a new character to the zeitgeist the same way Blade did in the 90s. It doesn't launch anything long term. It is a dog and pony show. It's here for a minute, and for that year of 2015, unfortunately, 20th Century Fox, they were only going to do a certain amount of black that year, and they wasted some of that black on a white character. It did
Okay,
not
well,
help. It hurt.
I guess if we were to ask this question about, let's say, Nick Fury in the MCU, I think that's done plenty. I mean, I think Nick
All
Fury
right,
is one of the
that
best
doesn't
written
last.
characters in the MCU. A lot of people like Nick Fury because of the Avengers, because of Winter Soldier. Can't remember where else he stood out in, but um,
Give me 1 second. I gotta figure something out. I'll be back in like a minute.
okay,
Sorry for this. It's very wrong, but we weren't prepared, and I
that's
had
all
to
right.
speak.
That's all right. We planned this in one day, so I'll wait for him to come back. In the meantime, I'll just interact with chat. Old Thumpcast is back. I mean, yeah, that's yeah, it's classic. People keep talking about Velma. I have no information on Velma. I really couldn't say anything about it, so uh, I'm lost on that. Would you be okay if Bruce Wayne got all of his skills from a super soldier serum? I mean, I don't like it as much, but I mean, I guess it depends on how they do it in the story. It's just at that point, it's like, what's the point of doing doing it with Batman? You know, we've got other characters that fulfill that purpose, but I don't know. Why'd you hold up? They still believe in replacement, even if it's an original.
You hear me now?
Yeah, okay. Um, so yeah, just back to what we're on
Nick
about.
Fury.
Yeah, I brought up Nick Fury. So I think you were gonna say something, but you had to do something real quick, so I'll let you go.
I was saying that Nick Fury doesn't last. We're living currently in a Samuel L. Jackson Nick Fury era.
Right.
He will be white again.
Do we know that? Because I mean, it was inspired by like the Ultimate comics. It's translated into other adaptations as well. I When's the other times we've seen a white Nick Fury? Because the last one I remember was I think the Spider-Man Friend or Foe video game, but I can't. To be fair, I haven't absorbed every bit of Nick Fury content.
When did the
Afterwards.
Spider-Man Friend or Foe game come out?
It was a 2007 game, I believe, soon after Spider-Man 3.
So all I have to do is find a comic book that came out after Avengers 2012 of Nick Fury being white, and you'll see
Well,
my
I
point.
mean, he has to because like that's 616. He's still that in the comics, but even then in the MCU, because the MCU is more mainstream, the MCU has Nick Fury has the most attention out of any Nick Fury, and that has affected some adaptations. I know the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show, they made Nick Fury black in that. I'd have to look at the others.
In Wolverine and the X-Men, Black Nick Fury.
Because from what I've heard, most adaptations have a black Nick Fury.
Keep naming them, and you're just exhibiting the replacement. That is a problem. That these
What do you mean
racists.
replacement? Because
Oh,
like you said earlier,
I mean,
they're still the original.
when an adaptation of a character is black when he's supposed to be created white and is a white character, is a white IP, that is the replacement. When the adaptation on film, it's a Wonder Man right now. It's being played by Yahya Abdul-Mateen. That is a black man. The comic book character is white. White people say they're replacing us. That's what I mean.
Okay, but because this was the point you brought up earlier, where it's like it would be a matter of like giving them ammunition and stuff like that. And to get back to that, I just want to ask like how far that goes. And the reason for that is because yes, they are going to try to find whatever they can as ammunition. But at that point, it's like okay, so no matter what happens, no matter what we do, they're going to try to find dirt. They're going to try to find reasons to say it's bad. They literally do this with Miles Morales. They try to do this with other characters as well. And I feel like it really comes down to if what we're saying, if the approach we're taking is like, is it something that they're trying to just pull from? Is it just something that they're trying to find dirt from, or is there a valid point to be made? And I think the important part is if there is a valid point for them to make about the race swapping or whatever the wokeness that they talk about. And I don't think the race swapping they have a.
We're not going to use the word woke today like that. No.
Okay, yeah, I'm using their words. I don't use it like that. I just don't think that I feel like their point about the race swapping, I don't think it's ammunition because it's not a valid point that they can use for replacement.
It's valid. It's valid. When Norman Osborn's supposed to be looking the way that that actor looks. What's his name?
Okay. Can I ask something real quick? So when they make MCU Spider-Man, for example, when they have the Vulture in an adaptation, is that replacing the comics version?
You mean Adrian Toomes, the character?
Yeah, Adrian Toomes in the MCU, played by
Michael
Keaton.
Keaton.
Yeah.
No. Oh no, you're doing a very like cheeky. I don't want to participate in this. It's fine. I can bury that point. In your head, it's not replacement when a new actor plays him. It's stupid. The character's white. Michael Keaton's white. That's not replacement. I don't know what direction you were trying to go
Well,
right now,
well,
and I don't want to
like,
go there.
let me explain the direction because his character is still different from the comics. His origin is still different from the comics. There's blatant changes made to his character. So we by that logic, it's like, oh well, that's how he's depicted in the comics, and he's not depicted like this in the movie. By that logic, he's replacing the original. You can
I'm
say
just
this
talking
about
about
any
race.
any deviation from the source material.
I'm
That
talking
Nolan
about skin
Batman.
color. But I'm just talking about skin color. That's the talk I'm having right now about skin tone. And Michael Keaton's the same as Adrian Toomes.
Yeah, but people obviously still respect the characters from the comics, so even from a characterization standpoint, they don't want them to just be replaced as if they don't matter. And I feel like it doesn't really make sense to say that because the point of an adaptation isn't to replace the original. The point is to create an alternative. The point is to coexist with each other. And I feel like that's kind of where like the distinction lies. It's not a matter of we're replacing these white characters; they're just coexisting in a different um, element in the multiverse or whatever.
And does that introduce a black character into the pop culture zeitgeist? No. But it comes from the percentage, because you're only going to get about 12%. Out of that 12%, Norman Osborn. Out of that 12%, Baron Mordo is played by Chiwetel Ejiofor. Out of that little percentage that we get to see of black on screen, they're not even elevating black characters. Thank God for Black Panther in
I
2018.
mean, Miles Morales, and yeah, they did do stuff with Black Panther when he was well, at least when what's his name, Chadwick Boseman was alive, and even then, they're still trying to work on that area of the mythos in the MCU.
How do you
Maybe not
feel
very
about
well, but they're still doing it.
how do you feel about T'Challa and a recast? I support a recast, and I talk about it a lot on my YouTube channel. Are you for recasting T'Challa or against it? Where do you land on that?
It's kind of a, to be honest, it's kind of difficult, because there's a lot of paths you can take with it. On one hand, it's like I can understand the approach of like wanting to, not wanting to replace him, as because it's still the same role, still the same universe. But on the other hand, I feel like there are a lot of qualified actors they can get to pull it off. So I don't know. I guess what you have to think about is if it would service the story. If him being killed off in the movie, would it work? Is there a way you can make it work? I don't know. I feel like with Wakanda Forever, even though I don't think it's a good movie, it still seemed like they tried to be respectful about it. They tried to do it in a respectful manner. So that's the most I can say about it. But
Well, much
yeah,
like this race swap conversation, we had a kick-ass superhero, a top-grossing film. You are stream sharing this with your audience, right? I hope they can all hear this.
yes, they can all they can all hear this.
The best representative in the history of representation, most positively impactful, influential, stereotype challenging character, and we got rid of that. That I'll never support. Like that's a problem. I want more of these guys being launched and not we got Norman Osborn as your black representative here on Spider-Man. Like give me an actual black character who's going to be black in the next cartoon. Spider-Man's been cartoonized many times.
Yeah,
He'll
but
be
didn't they do
cartoonized
that with
again.
Nick Fury?
And say again?
Nick Fury was black in the next cartoon, as you just said right there.
Norman Osborn being black in this cartoon right here does not guarantee he'll be black in the next cartoon there. I'll use Kingpin as an example, and I already used Human Torch. You're telling me Nick Fury has been black since the Sam Jackson thing. Presently, currently, I'll give you that. You can have the point. Here it is, SK. That's one that's stuck, and I told you the problem with replacement. That's one that's stuck
Okay.
until it doesn't stick. Until a new comic book creator who loves comic books goes, I'm in the booth, I'm creating, and I'm gonna make Nick Fury white. Why would I make it a black Nick Fury? That would be stupid. Until that day comes, it's gonna come. We are 12 years away, or when was 2020? He appeared in 2008. Since Nick Fury was casted as Samuel L. Jackson, and ever since '08 till now, in the last 16 years or 17 years now, we haven't had a white Nick Fury on screen that we can't bring to mind. There will be a white Nick Fury returning to the screens, and I will stream the day after, and I'll say, you see what I mean? It never sticks and never lands. Um, shoot, Norman Osborn though, no guarantee that this will be a black character forever. And instead of launching Randy Robinson, who is a black character, Randy Robertson has existed in Spider-Man comic books. He's got his own plot. He does things. There's adventures. There's side plots.
Hmm.
Instead of putting him in this TV show, they're going, no, we're already doing enough black because we got Harry and Norman Osborn. That's the black fulfillment. Let's go worry about the Asian requirements that we got to hit on that pie graph.
Well,
It
that's
is now
why.
costing the Nick Fury, the Norman Osborn is costing an actual black character and actual black characters who are in the Spider-Man zeitgeist who live in New York, like maybe a Luke Cage cameo, because they are hitting their requirements, which exist. They're hitting their quota with white characters depicted with darker skin for this time around. I want the viewers and the kids to go up with Randy and then get Randy again when they're teenagers and they redo Spider-Man animated. And then over and over again, we get Randy, the same way Robin keeps appearing with Batman, and now he can launch his own things. That's
Well, that's
progression.
that's where my confusion lied, because the reason I said, like, can't you just do both some race swaps but also bringing back the black characters, the reason I asked that earlier is because with this show we don't know that they don't have, like, Rand Robertson, for example. Like, he could be a student in at Peter's school for all we know. um
I can easily
so
combat
like
that point.
yeah,
It's
so
easy.
like at that point,
He's
what would
not in the
you?
trailer. He's not featured. He's not going to be a top character. If he is on in the show, he'll be on the very outskirts. So when I'm talking representation, I'm not looking for like the 13th character on the castings. Maybe Randy is that, but it's clear that Norman Osborn and Harry Osborn are going to be on screen a whole lot more, and that those are white characters. So yes, the representation is being wasted still, even if Randy is in it in the background.
Okay, but if we're to, hypothetically speaking, just so I can understand your stance some more, let's say he was either as prominent or more prominent of a character in the show. Would you say that? Would you still have a problem with the race swapping, or what do you think at that point?
I still have a problem with it because it would mean that those are still Harry and Norman. Those are still black characters
Mm-hmm.
or black versions this time around. And it shows that the characters could have been white. We wouldn't have people outraged, oh, we're being replaced because our skin isn't good enough. Look at them take away our white characters. I would still have a problem with that. And I
Okay.
don't even believe that what if scenario where no, Randy's gonna have a high position. It's clear he's not.
Well, yeah, I'm not saying that is gonna happen. I'm saying, like, if that's the case. Um, but yeah, I guess the thing is, it kind of goes back to what you were saying about how it gives them some kind of ammunition in the first place to say that they're being replaced. And what I was trying to get at there was that, yeah, they are, like, changing the races, but it still doesn't replace the original. And I still would
Dog, this
say.
is a linguistic issue. I'll just say changing the races. I'll stop using the word replaced. Changing the races, okay?
No, no,
There.
no. But, like, if that's the rhetoric they're giving, I'd still say, because what I was trying to say earlier is that uh, it gets to a point where it's like, so what can or can't we do with these adaptations? Because they're always going to find something to complain about. And I think the most consistent line to draw would
Yeah.
be when they actually have a valid point. And I don't think they have a valid point with this case with the race swapping, because it doesn't prove that that they have a thing against white people, which I've seen a lot get said a lot, that they want to replace white people, they want to get rid of whiteness, or whatever. Um,
If I share my screen right now, will it appear on your side of things right now?
yes, yeah.
Okay. Well, this is an ugly screen, but I'm sure some of you guys have seen this
I've
before.
seen a lot of these, yeah.
And
So,
why the fuck is it 50 different characters who are being replaced with black adaptations? This is gonna hit. Ariel can't be white anymore. We got the April O'Neil. No one can be white anymore. That I don't care if they're racist or whatever. I don't care. This shouldn't exist. This many of examples to cite and make people upset and possibly and not possibly and most certainly radicalize them further away from an inclusive kind of good loving person who sees skin and feels like, yeah, this inclusion thing's great. This shouldn't exist. This is a problem because of the effects that it has. And Norman Osborn has been
sure,
added to this.
but you understand that if it's not this, it's just gonna be another thing. Like, for
I'll
example,
take the other thing. I'll take the other thing because this is a legitimate. This is valid. This is actual. Like, oh, you know what? We are being replaced. There's Wally West, and we can't have Batgirl. We can't have that. Needs to be dead. Let their cries to their racist causes have less sting, have less effectiveness. This gives them fuel to their fire, and it's valid. Whether you agree or
well,
not, SK, it's valid.
so what specifically is valid about it?
That the adaptations in the films are being changed. That's what's valid. It
But
used to be
that
a white.
happens all the time. That's kind of what
Well, it's
adaptations do
valid.
on the regular. Like it not just for like skin
You
color, but
asked
also
what was
just
valid. I told you it was valid. And yes, Drew Manchu says it's all gingers. Yes, I saw. Yes, all gingers. Yes.
well, like what's valid about it? It's like yeah, they are changing races, but like I
Yes,
said,
that part.
adaptations.
That's the part. You said it, SK. You said it. They are changing races.
Well, okay, so if we want to say that, then yeah, they're technically correct on what they're doing. But by that logic, you can also say, well, they're creating characters like Miles Morales, Hobie Brown, all of them. You could just be like, yeah, well, it is true for them to point out that they're being created as
Hmm.
characters. Like, yeah, they're creating black characters. But would
Good.
that necessarily count as like valid ammunition that they have? I wouldn't say that.
Creating Hobie Brown or Miles Morales does not undo these race swaps and the Norman Osborn thing.
Yeah, but what
Creating
I Yeah, no, yeah, I get that. But what my whole point here is that if it's not that, it's gonna be the other thing, and I think they both have the same level of um lack of the same lack of validity to both of those points. Because I don't, because I asked you, what was valid about their point about the race swaps, and your only point was, well, they did the race swap. It's like, okay, that's true, but I can also say, well, what's valid about criticizing Miles Morales, an original character? It's like, well, they created him. Yeah, that's true. They did create him, but like, what else besides that? Besides what
Okay,
they're
every time
doing?
you said Miles Morales, I've tried not to do it because Miles Morales is Spider-Man. That's the whole thing on the internet, and I tried not to go here. You called him an original character.
He is, yeah.
I disagree with that, and that's not the point of today, though. It's not the point. All right, just
Okay.
saying. I'm just saying. It's not like you shouldn't keep bringing it up to me because
Well, I did bring up Hobie Brown as well.
Another Spider-Man variant, right?
No, he's not always a Spider-Man variant.
Okay. Are we done? Did
Well,
we?
like, are you aware of Hobie Brown in the comics as well?
I've never read him in a Spider-Punk, right? Yeah, yeah.
No,
I've seen him in a.
he's Spider Punk, yes, but he's also the Prowler. If you want to look at the 616 continuity.
Okay. I didn't know that. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, that was the example I was trying to go for. It's just like, yeah, people can point out, oh, well, they're shoving in a black supervillain in Spider-Man comics, or whenever they try to adapt it in, I think the '90s series may have done it, or maybe no, I don't think the '90s series did it, but I know they were planning to in Spectacular Spider-Man, if that show had continued. So you can just as easily make the point. It's like, oh, they're just shoving in more black characters, shoving it more in black characters, and then they can create a whole list like you just showed right there about, wow, they're just creating black character after black character after black character. And the thing is, the reason I brought up people like
Creating.
Nerdrotic and Ryan Kinnell and Critical Drinker is
Like, I'm
because
not coming at those guys. I'm coming at you guys who seem to be so
well,
progressive, and you're actually enabling the lack of actual black
so
characters like
let me
Randy coming on.
if you let me finish real quick. What I was getting to is, yeah, the type of people you're saying not to give ammunition to, they complain about original minority characters. I mean, there's literally a screenshot where Critical Drinker points out in the Acolyte that there's an alien, and then there's like black person, black person, black person. Basically, he's playing Count the Minorities in a screenshot of the younglings in a
And it
shot or
looks,
whatever.
yeah, and that I'm sure he looks really stupid in that and looks really racist in that. I'm sure when that video he
Yeah,
looks.
but the
I'm
the
with you,
same, yeah,
100%.
yeah,
SK. You're right.
100%. But those same
And
type of people
that is
perpetuate
the
like the
type of
same kind of points.
but that's the type of videos I want to see him making. Not, I can point at all of the data, everybody, and we can see that we are getting a race swap a year, and the statistics show. Like, I don't want him to have stats. I don't want him to have
But he basically
tangible.
has stats nonetheless if he keeps bringing up, well, look at how many characters are on screen that are minorities. He can
Let
make
his
the
stats
same
be
point.
that, because when I hear that, I go, look at this racist exposing himself. When I see the other things, I go, shit, why does he have a valid complaint about Norman Osborn? When my boy is in his car complaining there wasn't good black characters in the Batman movie, Batman, which is he's on screen 70% of the time, he's the lead character, he's white, he's been depicted white, he's always he's on screen all the time. I want to see him complain that the Batman movie wasn't good and white enough. When like that's the type of that's the type of criticism I want him to have. But when he says, what's it, Jim
Jim
Gordon,
Gordon?
um, the mayor, not the mayor, actually, not the mayor. What's her name? Catwoman, Selena
Yeah.
Kyle. When he's going, you see they took away, like, these characters are white characters, and in this movie they made them black characters. I don't want him to have that. I want people to listen to, say his name again, Ryan.
Ryan Kinnell.
Yeah, I want the videos of him saying that stuff, not about Batman, not to be able to be mixed in with, and look what they did. They took away our white selves for black actors. I don't want him to have that because that will hit. That there's an effectiveness. You may disagree on this, SK. You do disagree, but there's a level of effectiveness if he is citing actual race swaps.
Okay, but like by the same token, you can point out actual black people within a piece of media, which is what they do all the time anyway.
Yeah, it's 688. I just saw one of them, Critical Drinker. He did a video really upset at the 688. Look at them. How could they be heroes? They're not really heroes. They should be talking about the people who went on Normandy. Go away now. I saw that video and I said, awesome. His racist video where he's against a black character is against real life black people, not no race swaps. He can't be complaining that it's white. And he looks a whole lot more racist and easily racist and less convincing when he's complaining about the 688. There's levels of effectiveness. And I don't want them to have, I'll do it again. I'll do it again. This. I don't want them to have this and say, look at this. This guy's supposed to be white. We can show you the years of this cartoon he was white, that cartoon he was white. It is less effective when they don't have this. When they have this, oh my God, their numbers, they're soaring for a reason.
Well, I think if you really break down what they're saying, I don't think either is effective at all. I think they're both just as ineffective.
How is it ineffective if their subscriber count is growing and their videos are doing
It's
great?
growing because, like I said earlier, they make the same point about original black characters, and they still get support for that. Like, it's happening either way. They still get money off this stuff. They still get more subscribers off this stuff. I feel like if you really break down both of these scenarios, whether it be the race swapping thing or them complaining about original black characters, when you really break them down, they really don't have much of substance to say as far as a criticism towards the work. So I think it'll really come down to if someone is willing to put in that critical thought, they're gonna notice it. If they're not, then they're gonna fall for this stuff. Which is what has been happening. That's why they still are okay with attacking original black characters with the same kind of rhetoric. So I don't see the I guess the benefit to if anything, it's gonna validate them if you just say, yeah, you know what they said about the race swapping, they have a valid point for that. If anything, that helps them. If anything, that gains them more credibility if you say that. However, if you point out how their reasoning is flawed and why it sucks, then it's going to give them less credibility.
All right, point out how their reasoning is flawed and it sucks.
I have a
for
lot of
Norman
videos
Osborn
on
being
it,
race swapped.
but to start with Ryan Kinnell's video covering it was basically like, oh yeah, they changed the race, and the argument I keep hearing from him and other people is that, well, it's different from the comics. And I'm like, okay, that's wonderful. We change a lot of things from the comics all the time. That's kind of the nature of adaptations. We change things from the comics. So what exactly is the issue here? We've had bigger changes from the comics. Well, yeah, but we've had bigger changes from the comics as far as content of character, not just color of skin. So it seems really odd to me for him to fixate on, well, it has to be like the original. It has to be as close to the original as possible when he's been fine with bigger changes to to characters, whether it be their motivations, whether it be character traits, personalities, whatever it may be.
Yeah, what I heard was you dance around the question. The topic is race. I am talking to you about race, and you're telling me about how there's other big differences. I know there's other big differences.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the basis for why they're saying that the race needs to be the same. Their basis is that it has to be as close to the original as possible. But we've changed things, like even greater extents, with great movies like Spider-Man 2, for example, Spider-Man 1, The Dark Knight, Batman Begins. Like, a lot of acclaimed movies have made significant changes to the source material. So if their whole basis for being against a different actor or a different race is, well, it has to be like the comics, then they're clearly not consistent with that standard to begin with.
They're clearly racially motivated, aren't they? I agree. They're
Well, yeah,
racially
and that's
motivated.
why I think
that's what they're doing. That's why they're talking about it. They're talking about
And
race. And I hate that they have it. I want to talk to you about your advocacy for and okaying it and spreading that message on your YouTube platform that it is okay when I'm telling you that it comes at a cost. The cost, SK, is actual black characters. Because Norman and Harry are on screen, that means Randy won't. Or Luke Cage or any other
That's
black New York character. It is coming at a
that's not
cost.
inherently true.
That is
That comes down.
100% inherently true because I've never
It's not
seen a
inherently true
Spider-Man movie
because
or any Spider-Man project. I've never seen a Spider-Man project with a majority black cast. We're gonna have Spider-Man being the white guy, and maybe they might race swap, like when Zendaya's character. Maybe they'll do something like that. Put Jamie Foxx's character in this third movie to represent black. Nick Fury was in it as Sam Jackson to represent the black. So you'll get your black inclusion, and it'll only be a certain percentage on the pie graph. And this percentage on the pie graph is being wasted on Harry Osborn and Norman Osborn, black people playing white characters.
so,
It is coming at a cost. There's always a cost. When Spider-Man has a majority black setting, majority black cast, and it's not coming at a cost, or when they're not counting race, and when they're not counting, or we're checking that box, fine. They are. It's coming at a cost. There is no there's little black representation of actual black characters in your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
okay, so to go back to what you were saying about that always it's going to come at a cost of other black characters not being able to be properly represented. I don't believe
because the
that
studio will
because
say we're doing enough black.
okay, but let me go back to the example of Spectacular Spider-Man. Yeah, they make race changes in that show, but they were still going to utilize a character like Hobie Brown, for example, as the Prowler. Like, that's an example right there. So I'm really confused on why it inherently means
Easy.
those
You said
characters
they were
have
going
to be...
to.
Well, no,
You
no,
said they
I'm
were
saying...
going to do Hobie Brown. So
Well, they
in
were.
the next
That was in the
season,
plans, but the
in the next
seasons got
season,
canceled.
so when that season happened, Hobie Brown would be the black representative on that show, and the other black characters who they've swapped and who they've done, they'll be diminished. They'll be decreased. They'll still maintain that pie graph of our 12% of our show was black, so we feel good about it, and we're doing black. But
Well, how do you know that's the creator's motivations?
because that's how it's always been, and every Spider-Man has been 12% black or less.
I mean, I guess because the reason that they gave in the show was that they thought it was more realistic. It's not just for the sake of like filling out a quota or whatever. Like, there's some creators that that actually do value the diversity of it. They still want to represent things accurately or realistically to some extent. So
Yeah.
I don't think that's every single creator's motivation going into it. I don't think we can really substantiate that.
Let's forget the characters' motivations. The actions, the creators had a cause and effect. The action of putting Blade out back then with Wesley Snipes leading it, doing in
Mhm.
3 movies, there was a cause and there was an effect. And the benefits of like humans watch that movie of all backgrounds in all countries and watched a protagonist whose skin was dark and loved him and lived through him, and when he was looking tight they felt sympathy for him, and when he came back and he achieved the goal, everyone was happier at the end of it. I want that experience with a black character who stays black, because I know when Marvel eventually does the new Blade movie, it'll be a black character who's authentically black, and I'll never have to worry about losing that. There's benefits in real actual black characters. That doesn't happen with the race swaps. The race swaps don't provide lasting representation. It's temporary representation.
Okay, but if they were to make another adaptation of Spider-Man, right, and they were to bring back Norman Osborn, the usual cast that we're used to, there's not only one way to represent black people, right? You don't even have to use the same characters to have black people represented. So let's say they were to do another show, and they were to have other black characters. Yeah, maybe it's not the same. Maybe it's not Norman or Harry, but there's other characters in there that are represented as black. Then, like, at that point, they're still maintaining that representation.
No, you dumbass. I'm sorry to be insulting to you, SK. I'm sorry. I should take that back. We got to keep things cordial. But
Okay.
what you said right now means that in the next reboot, the race swap will be Vulture. In the next reboot, the race swap will be, oh my God, Mysterio. In the next reboot, then it'll be Lizard.
I mean, you said you wanted representation, right?
I said I don't want temporary representation. I said I want the lasting representation. I did make sure to make that as a point. Because they keep swapping reboot after reboot, new iteration after new iteration, 30, 40 years down the line, me and you are much older, we're here on YouTube and we're going, yo, where's the black Spider-Man villains? Well, what do you mean? We've had them. I'm going to say, no, we've never had them. They just kept putting black on a different character and a different character. It doesn't launch a black franchise or a black IP. It never launches it. It just hot potatoing who gets to be black this time, that time, that time. doesn't establish into the pop culture zeitgeist, into the Spidey mythos, an actual black character. Race swaps are regressive. They actually hurt. They put a block and they put a stop to our actual black characters who we want to see.
Okay, but like I said, you're capable of doing both of them at the same time. Like, let's say Miles was somewhere in the show of Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. They could have him, and then I don't know if they bring him back for the next season. I don't know if they do something with Hobie Brown in the next season. I don't know. But I don't think you need to inherently give up on those characters, which is something you've been implying from the beginning. You don't
Wait,
have
you
to give
agreed
up
with me,
on
right?
them.
When you said okay, and then you switched over to Miles. You agreed with me what I said about if one guy's black for this time around Norman, and then it's Lizard, and then it's Mysterio. We're
Yeah,
not
I'm saying
actually
that could
launching.
happen, yes.
It could happen. No, that's the effect, the cause and the effect. When the race swap of who gets to be Spidey's black villain in this cartoon, when it keeps getting swapped and swapped and swapped and swapped and swapped to different characters, who gets to be black, we never get a black Spider-Man villain.
Sorry, what?
I don't know if I want to continue this conversation, brother. It's like I'm
Okay.
talking to a wall, bro. So if Norman Osborn's black this time, which she is black this time, the last time around it was Kingpin who was black, but Kingpin's not going to be black in this one. The next time around it'll be the Lizard. That's going to be the black character. I'm going to say, where's the black Spider-Man villains? And they're not appearing because the creators each and every time they keep swapping, like you suggested a minute ago. They
Yeah,
keep
but you said
changing.
this
They
would
keep alternating.
Yeah, but you said this would come at the cost of original black characters. But if you keep them across
Yes.
adaptations, you can still maintain them. Can you not?
You said them. I want to know what them means. Maintain them.
Original black characters.
I'm in support of maintaining original black characters who were
Yeah, so
created black.
so that's why I'm saying they could do that. I mean, they literally did that in the MCU. You have Nick Fury, who's race swapped, but you
No.
also have original black characters like Rhodey. You have the Falcon. You have Black Panther. You still have them in spite of race swaps. Liz Allen is race swapped, but you still have characters like Sam Wilson.
I'll
Nick
give you a
Fury.
better. I'll give you the way I'm thinking about it. We could have Brother Voodoo show up in Doctor Strange in 2016, but instead they just got Chiwetel Ejiofor to play Baron Mordo, who's a white character. And I'm saying now that cost us Brother Voodoo. The scene was cut. There was enough of the representation on their inclusion standards. You know about the inclusion standards, right?
Yeah, you mentioned it.
I'll show it to you anyways. It's on this screen here. Give it a second. But there's actually requirements that these studios have. Warner Brothers has it. And where is it? It was on one of my bookmarks and I had it, but I don't have it anymore. I do. There it is.
Okay.
Sorry for wasting your time.
I mean, it's all right. I mean, we're kind of okay. I don't have time to read through all of it. I actually thought this conversation would be a lot quicker, but in a few minutes, I am gonna have to go to dinner.
We can go now. Just get your last point off. If anyone wants to see this, I'm putting it in the Chillmonger comment section
I'll
of
leave
this live stream.
I'll leave this up on the screen if you want to look at it. But essentially, I think we're kind of going in circles towards the end point.
No, we're not going in circles. I keep bringing up that they alternate who the black villain gets to be, and then you say,
well, I mean,
yeah, but that doesn't mean we can't get Falcon.
Okay, are you trying to be argumentative here, or like, come on, I'm trying to close it off here. So yeah, we're kind of going in circles at this point. If you want to talk more about it, I'm happy to do that at another point. But I think I understand where you're coming from. But I just don't see any strong legitimacy to the things you're saying, and I'm sure you think the same about me, which is fine. That's how I'll end it off.
Got it. Thanks for coming, everyone. If you're watching on mine, hit me a thumbs up. If you're watching on his, hit him with a thumbs down.
Okay.
That was a joke. That was a joke.
All right. Yeah.